we understand that Christ is not only the Son of God who came down, died on the cross, rose again, you know. He came from heaven to show the way. You guys heard about the Promise Keepers, all the men? We filled up the old Mile High Stadium with men of God. He came from heaven to earth. And it was just like this uproar of just manliness and testosterone, and it scared me. I peed a little. But, anyway, so I just always look for that. But the humanity of Christ is understanding just one part of who Jesus is. And in understanding this one part, we're going to find that this is essential in our belief system. This part is just as important as understanding the deity of Jesus. If you don't understand the humanity of Christ, you don't understand how God physically was flesh and bone with organs. You know, the guy basically was a traveler. He didn't have a home. He was walking around all the time, so you know he was all fit. I drive around all day, so the opposite. But Jesus was this. And in understanding this, we've got to understand that Jesus is truly God, and Jesus also is truly man. Now, let me talk to you about the two natures of what this is an understanding of. God has a divine nature, which is bestowed to us with the understanding of Him dying on the cross. This is the only part of that nature that can even stand place to say that once He is nailed to the cross, His divine nature takes on the ability to sanctify and to make new, take on the sin of the world. That is the nature of God that we're talking about. And the other part is truly man. And this is the part that no other religion, if you're just basing it off of religious faith, ever come to a humbling point. You know, before I came to the Lord, let me tell you a little bit how I came to the Lord. I grew up in the church. I slept under the pews, and that was pretty much, we went Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesdays, I was a Royal Ranger, had to wear my stupid little khaki outfit, and go like, I'm ready to serve, come in. I don't know what it was, I forgot it. But, that was my life. And I always had the sense of God was supposed to be there. And I had some family things that were all jacked up, but it kind of took me off course. I didn't understand. And so when I became of understanding, I said, I don't want to serve God just because I'm told to. I don't want to serve God just because it's a cultural thing. And so what I started to do is I started to look into other religions. I started to look at Islam. I started to look into Buddhist, Hindu. I even looked at Pope to see what they were all about. I didn't stay there too long. They're kind of weird. Like, I didn't want to, I didn't want to go there. But I started to look at this other things, and I said, all of these are pretty much the same. You have your allegiance to your God, you do this to your God, and you're supposed to get blessed in return. And I thought, I could pretty much live any path that I wanted with an understanding. And then I came across a church history book, and the first line that it says is, Christianity is the only religion that humbles its God down to your level. And I thought, wow, in understanding the scope of the deity and what God is, in Islam, you cannot touch Allah. Allah's way up here. And he's like, I don't know what he's saying, but he's telling you pray 5 times a day, do this, and you can't touch him. In Buddhist, there's really, you strive to be nothing. I didn't understand that, so I stopped. Hindu, I didn't want to think that I was a fly or a piece of whatever before, so I didn't understand all that. But Christianity is the only religion that humbles itself, a God, a deity who humbles himself to become you. Now I want you to think about you for a second. Is that very flattering? But, y'all, you know, good thing you have gel and makeup. But, oh, I appreciate that. But God, think about your humanity, like you as a person. Start to strip away all the understandings of what you think Jesus was. And I think sometimes when we think about Jesus, you know, that's the only image that we have, is this nice, sculpted beard, and he's just there and like his hands. And that's Jesus. Jesus became flesh. So the union of two natures, his human, his divine. In this union, there is a perfect blend of both. This union did not create a third nature, nor did it create a dual personality. When Jesus decided to come out of the heaven, out of the spiritual realm, and to take on flesh, basically what he did is, have you ever watched Cocoon? The old movie in the 80s now? Thank you. The glowing orb guy, you know, puts on the flesh. Just think of it like that. God himself, the Spirit, was introduced to Mary, and inside of Mary is where he started to develop into an embryo. And then from an embryo, he started to develop, and he started sprouting little hands. And he started little feet. And he started, you know, pooping in his mom's stomach. Like, this is the humanity that we start to talk about. And finally, Jesus was born. He was born in the lowest of the lowest as far as society goes. And so this guy was man street. But you got to understand that he didn't separate his understanding of who he was. Jesus was 100% God, 100% man, all the time. There was no division of him. So when it says that there was no dual personality, it wasn't like Jesus was just like normal, and then when his God side kicked in, he's like, step down, mortal! You know, like he wasn't a freak like that. He understood everything that was going on. And he did also create this third nature. A lot of people think that Jesus was a hybrid, and in this hybrid, he wasn't able to experience the same emotion, the same temptation, the same hurt. So when he went through the process of the cross, he was protected. There was a protection because he was this ultra being that didn't exist in our realm or in heaven. So he was this ultra being. Okay? That didn't happen. Jesus was like you and I. He ate too much hummus. He got a little party. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, Jesus did I had a pastor one time say that he could only imagine that Jesus was the guy who would be sitting on a, you know, I don't know if that's benches or whatever, but they'd be sitting there, and he was the guy who tied Peter's sandals together, and was like, hey Peter, why don't you go give me some water, bro? I don't know if that happened. But I don't think God was stiff. I don't think Jesus was stiff. I think he was a normal, breathing, down-to-earth guy. And you see this throughout the gospel when it says that he was talking and congregating with people who, you know, basically were lowlifes. He was with tax collectors. He was with people who were unclean, the Gentiles. He was with people that in the church, in the modern church, was kind of a stigma to be around. You know, that's one thing I hate about the church, is they so put a stigma on what you should look like. I love when I meet people who are like decorated. I always envision this, and this hasn't come true because God has blessed me with more than I can even think of to grow in ministry. That's But I always thought, how sweet would it be, like, you know, the Cheap Theater downtown? I don't know if it's a Runyon now. But I always thought, how sweet would it be to get, like, the Chief Theater downtown, have tons of shows, just bands, whoever wanted to come, DJ, whatever, come just and just build an environment that's welcoming to everybody, and whoever showed up, showed up. There's a pastor that I've always tried to be like. He said, my congregation should have every single color in it, should have every single genre in it, and outside of my church, there should be a whole trail of cigarette butts. And what he was saying is, if we don't have a heart that's reaching, if we don't have God's understanding of what a person is, we are never going to be an effective church. If you think that wearing a button-up collared shirt and showing up with your Bible and doing things that are expected, man, you're going to miss the boat. Because I'll tell you what, God is not looking for somebody who's best dressed. This isn't a high school yearbook where he's saying who's going to be the most successful and the most likely to succeed and all these things. He is saying that I am looking for a people that are hurting, that are rejected, who are not feeling it, who people of the normal grind of life are needing people who will reach out to them. They can't reach out to a bunch of phonies who don't know what reality is all about. But that's what we do, is we start to build ourselves like we're a bunch of phonies. And all of a sudden, we don't have enough interest in us to say, let me reach out to you, man. Let me just find out what's going on. And I'll tell you what, I'm guilty of this, number one. Because sometimes it's just not worth my effort. It's hard. I don't know how to come at people sometimes. But you know what? There's other people that do. And I would encourage that if you surround yourself with people who are saying, you know what, I've been in this situation, and now I have a testimony that can get you out. And this is what Jesus was doing. He said, you know what, I'm not just going to be that guy in the church that sits back and says, whoa, look at me. I tithed the most this month. I prayed the loudest. I sang the best. Jesus was saying, I'm not just going to sit up here as a divine being, as a deity, and say that you shall worship me. He's saying, I want to know the heartbeat of the people of my creation. And so for that to happen, I will become like them. And so he became the single unique person, a human without sin. In fact, he became the only human that could represent man to God because of his sinless life. One thing that I hate about the church and the way they reared the understanding of discipleship is that you have to be like Jesus. Now, don't get me wrong. Our example, our understanding is that we would know him and become holy, righteous. Right? That's the whole goal. When you wrestle at night with how sinful you are and how wicked you are, that's what's happening. God is saying, I want you to be cleansed so you become like me with an understanding of my heart. But your goal, you're setting your goal on somebody who can success. You will never, ever, ever, ever touch who God is or who Jesus was. Now, I know that sounds discouraging. But what I'm saying is, I want you to understand that God, that Jesus has already become the perfect representation for man to reconnect with God. That's why he did it. So when you think of yourself, don't think in your mind that you're the next Jesus Christ. Okay? Does that make sense? I've told you myself, if you've been here, that when I was younger in my walk, I wanted to be the young man that was able to leap out of the audience and be like, the Lord has a word for you, and I'm going to fly now. And for the glory of God, you'll see all of this, and I truly wanted it to be for the glory of God. But I had to come down to reality and say, God is choosing Matt in this ministry. Jesus already paved the way. Jesus already made the way for me to have a relationship with God. It is not up to me as an individual, as a person, to make you believe. It is my job to help you understand the reality of why I believe. Does that make sense? And through that, as I show you the understanding of why I believe, people will see the heart of Christ. It says in Hebrews 2:17, it says, therefore, he had to be made like his brothers in every respect, so that he might become a merciful and faithful high priest in the service of God, to make propitiation for the sins of his people. Now I want to stop real quick and do like a little theology, cornerstone, bricklaying. Jesus didn't need to become like us, to become merciful and faithful. Those are his attributes. He doesn't need to do anything that stimulates him to react, to be anything. Does that make sense? He already is faithful. He already is merciful. So whenever it says that he has become, or if he had to, it is saying that he has chosen to, or it is the will of the Father to become life, so that he would be able to show his faithfulness, his mercy. And so I just want to point that out, because God doesn't need any type of stimulus for him to be God. He always will be. That's a great thing. You guys are struggling with your walk and you're so like young into it. And I'm not old into it, but I'm saying maybe some of you are like right there where you're still wrestling and you don't know how to get past this little hump. You know? It's like you don't have to worry about those things. Hell, you don't have to worry about these things, because Jesus already did all of it. And through that, you start to see that yourself takes on grace, and grace is something you don't deserve, but God gives you anything. And mercy is the opposite. He's not giving you what you do deserve. So when we talk about attributes of God, don't wrestle so much. Stop trying so hard. Oh, but that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to have quiet time. I'm supposed to pray an hour a day. Let me tell you something. Those habits, those disciplines are beneficial to you. If you want to get deeper and grow and go farther, those disciplines are for you. They do nothing that changes God. And I want you to understand these differences very plainly, because as you start to progress in your walk, the lines will become blurred, and you will think that all of a sudden your actions are going to be the outcome of God's actions. And that's not true at all. His faithfulness overruled your faithfulness any day. On our level, he understands because he lives too. In Hebrews 2:18 it says, for because he himself has suffered when tempted, he is able to help those who are being tempted. I think this is one of the struggles that I had when I started to think about Jesus. You know, how could a sinless person ever understand what I'm going through? And I'll tell you, I don't know the answer. Because when I feel like I'm in a great place where I'm sinless, where I'm doing well, I feel untouchable. You know? You ever feel like just super Christian? You know? You like go to a retreat, or you go to, you know, we used to go to Winterfest as youth. And we'd come off the mountain, dude, and I was rolling. And I was like, come on, stay with me. Huh? You ain't the devil. Lord. Come on, breathe it. You know, and I was really pissed. Come on. You have an attack against the church? I'm right here. I'm right here. And I was so stupid, because then he just come and like knee me in the face, and it was like ultimate fire. I was just like, oh, session. You know? But that's how, that's sometimes how I thought about Jesus. I was like, man, if he was sinless, and he just had this strut about him, how could anything even fix him? This is where I think boiling, and this is hard to say, but boiling down your perception of who Jesus was as a man has to come into play. You have to think that this guy had low points. He was angry, felt alone, he was vulnerable. I think the one thing being sinless that he understood is that there was always a way out through his faith. And it's weird because now he starts to have faith in himself. I have faith in myself. I know I can do things, and I don't think that was any different from what God was saying, from what Jesus said. I think Jesus was like, you know what? I know that if I were just think about it, I could have a whole legion of angels just come down and say, what up? To anybody who's going to me. Because his faith is that high. His faith is that extreme. Just like I think that any of you and I do that same thing. I think if our faith was at that level, I think we would do it. But being tempted, he knew exactly what we were going through. Reaching again is easier because he knows our struggle. In Hebrews 4:14-15, Jesus is the great high priest, and then we have a great high priest who has passed through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God. Let us hold fast our confession, for we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who in every respect has been tempted as we are, yet without sin. 1 Peter 2:21-25 says, for to this you have been called, because Christ also suffered for you, leaving you an example, so that you might follow in his steps. He committed no sin, neither was deceit found in his mouth. When he was rebel, he did not rebel in return. When he suffered, he did not threaten, but continued entrusting himself to him who judges justly. He himself bore our sins in his body on the tree, that we might die to sin and live to righteousness. By his wounds you have been healed, for you were straying like sheep, but now have returned to the shepherd and overseer of your souls. I think this is a great outline and understanding of what Jesus really did as a man. Because I'm thinking if Jesus had every single emotion that I went through, that I go through, there's sometimes where I'm still working. There's times in my heart where I just want to die. And I tell Janelle, I say, babe, I don't want to be away from you guys, but I so want to be with God. Because my spirit here is not resting. My spirit tosses and it churns and it's wanting and it's searching and it's crying out. And because of that, every emotion wells up within me. And I can only imagine that Jesus, coming out of the heavens, was tossing and turning and just waiting for the fact. I bet you, even though he was scared, even though every fear came upon him at the cross, even though he asked for it to pass, I bet you there was a part of him that said, I can't wait to die. I can't wait to be back with my Father. And I can't wait to build a reconciliation between my beloved and myself. And I think he was so eager. I think that's why when you read about what was going on in the temple and what was going on with the Pharisees and Sadducees. I don't think that he was mad just out of just anger. I think there was a deep depression, and I'm not saying the depression that is overwhelming him, but I think there was a depression to the point where he was saying, how have you fallen so late? How have you fallen so far away from me? The Pharisees and Sadducees would come up to him and say, well, what about this? And what about this? And what about this? And even though they saw him only as a man, I'm sure that his nature, his God nature was saying, if only you knew what I was about to do. Knowing the humanity of Christ, if only you knew and if I knew how Jesus was really reaching out to us. Oh, how I think that our attitude would change. Oh, how I think that our selfishness would be laid aside. Oh, how I think that we would not doubt as much as we do every single day. You know, I doubt every single Friday. I'm not called to this. Well, shut up. You know, I become this swallower, and I'm just like, Lord, woe is me, woe is me. I'm not worthy to fill these shoes, Lord. I'm not this, I'm not that. And even though all of this might be true, I have to remember that God has a plan for me. God has a direction. And you know what? I almost cried because there was only 3 of you here when we first started. And now it's 7 church. That we're all here to worship God. And that's what it's all about. When you go and you reach people, reach them with this. Give them real hope. Give them true discipleship. It's easy to go in and preach all the good news about what Jesus is. And that's what people hear. God made a plan for you. He loves you. You're supposed to be part of His family. And He'll forgive you of all your sins because He died on the cross 2,000 years ago. And then He came back to life and ascended into the heavens, and then He's coming back. That's the gospel. And that's easy to hear. Because you know what? It's like reformed language. It's like you know that's the truth. When you hear it, your heart lights up. You're like, yeah, that's the truth. I know it. I know it. But then when people come to the Lord, it's like, well, it's time to work now. Right? How many of you came to the Lord and now it's harder? What the heck? You know, how many of you have ever said, you know, I'm going to stand up for righteousness in my life. I'm going to stand up and I'm going to start to do the discipline that I know is going to get me closer to God. And all of a sudden, boom, your life starts to fall apart. You know, like, what the heck, God, I'm doing this for you, man. Count it a pure joy when tribulation comes your way, because you know that you are pleasing the heart. Because all of a sudden, there's spiritual warfare going on. And you know, a lot of people don't talk about that either, but there's spiritual stuff going on. And whenever you stand up for Christ, you better believe somebody else is standing up for you too. And that's why your life is harder. Trust in these scriptures. I hope that you write these scriptures down. I hope that you understand that Jesus went through all of this. Anytime that He was, you remember the part of the Bible where He says that Jesus disappeared and took Himself away from the 12? I think that was serious one-on-one time. It was serious reflection time. Do that. Get yourself in a habit of withdrawing from the crowd. You know, we just asked for Facebook and Twitter and Pinterest and whatever. And you know what? I got back on today. I didn't miss anything. In fact, no one even commented on the page that they missed. Draw away. Pull yourself away. Get to the presence of God. That's why worship is so important, that we get into